Hello, tonight we're going to be looking at 8.2 in our geometry packet. Tonight we're going to find the perimeter and area of triangles and then at trapezoids. I like that these two shapes are shown together because there's one thing that these formulas have in common. They both have the 1/2. Because if I put two triangles together, I would make a parallelogram. So a triangle is half of a parallelogram. The same is true for the trapezoid. If I put two trapezoids together, I would make a parallelogram. So that's why they both have the half in their formula. All right, so let's look at another way to write the formulas. So for a triangle, so area of a triangle, I know some people like to write it base times height divided by 2. So if that's what you're more comfortable with, that is fine, but this formula works as well. If you take half of the base and then times it by the height, that works too. So area for a trapezoid, this formula is really long, right? But you can also write this similar to the triangle. We can put it all over 2, just like on the triangle. So I know I have to add base 1 with base 2, and always remember to add first, just like we do for PEMDAS. Then I multiply it by my height, just like I do for the triangle, and I divide it by 2. So I can write it in that same format if that's what you like better. Okay, number 1, and we're starting with a triangle. And it wants to know the perimeter of the triangle. So remember, perimeter is when you add all sides. So if I take 6 plus 12 and 4/10 plus 8 and 2/10, I get my perimeter of 26 and 6/10 centimeters. I am not going to square it because it is just one-dimensional. Now for the area, they didn't give us enough information. So area, I need to take the base times the height and divide it by 2, but they didn't give me the height, so let's add that. And remember that the height has to be perpendicular to the base. Let's write that down over here. Okay, we won't need that space. So the height must be perpendicular to base. Okay, so that has to be true for this all to work. Okay, so by perpendicular, that means we need to look for that little box. So we know we have the height. So let's make the height 4. Okay, so if I have that number, I can go ahead and find the area of my triangle. So the base is the 12.4. The height is now 4, since we added that. And we needed to cut it in half, because triangle is half of a parallelogram. So I do my multiplication first and get 49.6, and then I divide that in half and get 24 8/10 centimeters squared. When finding area, I always square it because I have 2 dimensions. Okay, now we're shifting over here to number 2. We have a trapezoid. So the perimeter for the trapezoid, again, is to add all the sides. So the perimeter is going to be 12 plus 9 plus 6 plus 8. Adding is a commutative property, so I can add that in any order that I want to come up with my sum. So the perimeter equals 35 inches, not squared because it is 1 dimension. Okay, now for the area formula. Okay, I kind of scribbled it up there at the top, and there's the other way to write it as well if you want the half in the front. So base 1 plus base 2. Base 1, typically is our smaller base, but it doesn't have to because we're just going to add them together anyway, and then base 2 is up there. Something to note, how do I know which ones are the base and which ones are not? The bases are parallel. So whenever you see a little triangle like that, if you see that, that means parallel, which is good for us to know because the bases have to be parallel. All right, so that's why I knew B1 and B2. My height, I had to add that just like on the triangle. So we got the height of H is 7, and then we're going to divide all that by 2. So B1, 6, plus base 2 is 12. Times it by the height of 7, and divide that all by 2. So 12 plus 6 is 18, and then I will be taking 18 times 7 and dividing it by 2. So if I do all that, multiply that all out, I will get 63 inches squared because we're dealing with area. So I square it. Okay, to get full credit for this, then we want you to do this on your own. Okay? On your own. Try this out, see what you get for this trapezoid. I see that perpendicular symbol, so I know I have height and a base 1 and a base 2. This 15 is our distractor. You will not use that number. Okay, so go ahead and try that one on your own for full credit for these notes.